People who have jobs they genuinely love and enjoy. What is it and how did you get into it? Story 1. I'm an investigator for an ombudsman, lawyer by trade. Didn't even know that kind of job existed before seeing the posting. Basically, I scold our local version of the IRS when they fudge up or are being mean. I get to force them to change their processes when necessary. I have unlimited inquiry power. So yeah, I get to do fiscal law for poor people and still be paid for it. I feel useful. My job is varied and impactful. Lowest stress, flexible schedule. Story 2. I literally would stay at Starbucks for the rest of ever if I could stay in the role of being a barista and make a livable wave. I know that sounds silly, but these past 4 years have been wonderful. And horrible BC, you know life. But it's really cool. I have a family there and a third home. It'll be devastated once I have to leave. Story 3. I work at the local gun range. I teach pistol and rifle safety fundamentals. I spent 6 years in the Army infantry, only left to start a family. I enjoy firearms and have experience with them. I would also rather be the one to teach people how to use them properly and safely, mostly because I don't trust other people to not take advantage of a person. Story 4. Dental hygienist. Math came very easy to me, but it didn't interest me. I enjoy learning philosophy and psychology, but the careers didn't seem to express that joy the way I wanted it to. So I picked the dental field because it's fascinated me since day one, and I get the bonus of directly helping people. FYI, for all those in the midst of making a career choice, I job shadowed a lot before making the call. Even after picking dental hygiene, though, the program could get very stressful and frustrating. But it helped knowing that school and the career were different, so I just had to survive school, and then I'd be at that career that I had shadowed and enjoyed. Last brag, it helps that my profession requires continuing education. It keeps me learning, and that helps me stick with it over the years. For sure, best wishes. Story 5. I'm a dog groomer and love my job. I started out at grooming school and then ended up working there afterwards. I now run my own business and am extremely passionate about what I do. It can be a harder job than people realize, but it makes it all worth it when the dogs leave my salon looking and feeling great and seeing the owner's reactions. Story 6. I worked at Jack in the Box at 16 and would take turns bringing plant substance in and smoking every shift. All the food you could eat, and they have bangers when you're high. Everyone was cool with each other. Decent pay, especially for a 16-year-old. Wish I stayed. Story 7. I'm a couples therapist. After years in the corporate world, I went back to school, and now I get to help people every day. It's serious work with PPL who have real problems, and I'm having the best time ever. Answer: I'd love to see a couples therapist do an AMA, maybe in relationships or elsewhere. What do you think are society's current biggest misconceptions in regards to what's required to make a relationship work? Also, when you see a couple, do you find that problems in a relationship stem from one of the two, or is it more often mutual behavior that need to be worked on? Story 8. I'm a private chef on a super yacht. I got it because I used to work in Michelin star restaurants in London. I was tired of working so hard and then seeing so much of my salary get partied too hard on rent and cost of living in London. I figured out that you get to keep 100 of your salary if you live on the yacht. A bonus right now is that we're moored up on an island that has no cases of coronavirus at all. The pay is way more than what you would get as head chef in a restaurant as well. The crew I work with are all great, and I get to cook with the best ingredients with almost an unlimited budget. I couldn't be happier. Edited a word. Story 9. I am a teacher. When I was in grade 6, I had this amazing teacher, Miss Luddig. Every week she would have story time in class and just told us Hadassah. The way she treated us like young adults instead of children made me want to become a teacher. I have now been teaching for almost 10 years, and I can't think of anything I would rather be doing. I hope that I can be half the teacher she was. Story 10. I'm a bit of a gypsy, and I've worked a lot of different jobs in a lot of different fields in a lot of different places. One thing that differentiates them is the people. If you're surrounded by nice people and work hard, it's all good. If you're surrounded by tossers, and it only really needs a small number of them, especially if they're in positions of authority, then you might as well just say fudge it. I'm going to be moving on to a new city when this coronavirus thing blows over. First job I get, I'll probably decide within a month whether it's worth staying, and it will 100 be down to the people there. Story 11. I deliver mail and newspapers in the middle of the night to addresses deep in the hillbilly forests of Sweden. At first I was deathly scared of the woods in the dark, but now I've learnt my route by heart. I listen to music and audiobooks all the way through, and it doesn't even feel like work anymore. It's a few hours of heaven. I hope I get to keep it all throughout summer until I start uni again. Story 12. I work as an intimacy trauma therapist. I absolutely love what I do. It's hard days, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. It honestly happened by chance. I went to school for my master's degree, and once I graduated and got my license, I started shotgunning applications. Had one telephone interview and 2 in-person interviews and was offered the job. The 20th of this month will mark 1 year. Story 13. Started out as a remote volunteer translator for this nonprofit. Did that for 6 months, then they were hiring a language lead. I applied and got the job. Loved it, but my contract ended after 9 months. Then they offered me a job recruiting volunteer translators, and I've been doing that for 2.5 years. I love my job, the people I work with, my org, and the responsibilities I have. I get to learn about different languages and connect with people all around the world. Doesn't hurt that I get to work from home. Story 14. Electrician, buddy got me in. It doesn't even feel like I work. I just go play with my friends all day. Story 15. I build, maintain, and repair backbone carrier-grade high-capacity internet circuits. Get to drive around building cool shit every day that matters in everyone's daily life, including my own. Done it for 12 years, hoping I get to do it the rest of my life. Story 16. I'm a hairdresser. I'll admit, I love it so much because I'm good at it. A job is 10x more enjoyable if you're good at the job. I have great time management. I have fun with my clients. I can easily create conversation. I can easily figure out what they want without having a huge long dialogue at the beginning. I wanted a job where I could make good money, but it all depended on my hustle. I also wanted a job where I would interact with people, and I'd have to look the part as well. It's a great job, however, in this current world situation, it is not great. Fortunately, I have saved a lot, and I think we'll be okay. Story 17. Medic. Absolutely love this job. Currently working on a nursing degree. Since a young age, my dream was to join Doctors Without Borders. Until I realized they only took nurses and doctors, I decided to do a nursing degree. I much so prefer the paramedic life over a nurse's life. I got into it when I was a young adult because everyone kept telling me how calm I am while the world crumbled around me. And when I got into and I heard the first sigh of relief from my first patient, I completely fell in love with the job. Story 18. I'm a recruiter in the scientific healthcare field. I absolutely love it. Recruiters get a lot of heat, often justified, and there's plenty not to like about doing this. But calling someone and telling them they got the job never gets old and still brings me joy even after thousands of calls. Story 19. I work in a bowling alley. I didn't get these kind of moments when I was a kid, so watching couples, families, and even just groups of friends create great memories together really makes me happy. I also get 2 free pints at the end of my shift. Story 20. I don't do this anymore because I became a stay-at-home mom this year, but this was my job right out of college. I majored in theater, so basically planned on getting a normal average day job and auditioning for commercials and shows on the side. I was on an audition notice website and saw an audition for a dental company that sends actors to elementary schools to do a show about oral health and keeping your teeth clean. Then at the end gave out special bags with a toothbrush, toothpaste, floss, coloring sheets, and a few toys. I ended up going to the casting call and getting it. It also traveled to a few different states, so during the school year, I got to go from city to city and do 2-3 30-minute shows a day and make around $1,000 a week. That's a lot of money for full-time work as a struggling actor. I had to dress up as the Tooth Fairy in the show, and tons of the little kids always gave me hugs after the show and told me about their loose teeth. My favorite part of this job was going to the really low-income area schools because they were so excited and thankful to get these special goodie bags. We had audiences from 6 kids to 400 kids. It was so much fun, and I miss it a ton, but love being a mommy. Story 21. I taught myself how to sew by making cosplays. I had about 10 years of experience, but no professional training. I was laid off from a miserable office job I was not cut out for. Found a giant opening for a tailor shop and decided to just try applying. I needed a lot of training, but the owner was willing to take a chance on me. It's a small shop, only a few coworkers who are all older than me, but I get treated so incredibly well. They all love me. They say I really brighten the atmosphere of the whole place. Customers treat me like a professional and not some fudge head employee for once. I get paid better than I ever have, and every day I'm learning and practicing something I love. Answer? That's fantastic. It sounds like you're having an amazing time there. I also really like cosplay, LOL. although I've never done it myself. What are some cosplays you've done and what shows are you into? I only know one cosplayer IRL, and I think the whole process of creating a project from start to finish is really incredible. Like seriously, that's some talent you have to create something out of raw materials. Story 22. I used to be a bartender at a small pub, usually worked by myself or with one other person when it was too crowded, and I loved it. Pay wasn't great, the bar needed a lot of work done, and I had to deal with awful tipsy people, but still. It was in the center of my town, and all of my friends used to come over all the time, and I met a ton of new friends while working there. I quit because of studies, but I might go back when I have the time. Story 23. I'm a Linux sysadmin for the federal government. I enjoyed programming and building computers as a kid, so I went to college and got a bachelor's in CIS. Spent about 6 years working my way up through different IT jobs before I landed a job with the feds. I've been here for 12 years now. I love my job for many reasons. 1. I feel that my job actually matters. I do more than just make some CEO more money. I help to keep Americans safe. 2. My work is always changing, interesting, and challenging. I'm always learning something new. 3. I have control over my mission. My team works together to make a lot of decisions on not only how our work gets done, but what we do. Our management treats us as experts and rely on our expertise so we aren't micromanaged. 4. Currently, I have good managers, and when I haven't in the past, they are usually clueless enough that they just let us run how we want and get the job done. I've found that as long as no one complains about us from other groups, managers usually are happy. 5. I work with a great team. I've been involved with interviewing and selecting everyone currently on our team, and we all get along together very well. When I started, everyone else on our team was close to retirement, so I'm now the highest seniority. 6. I have fantastic benefits, great work-life balance, 40-hour work week, a 10 minutes commute, and I make $125,773 in a very low cost of living area. You know, after stories like this, I always just stare at the ceiling for a good 5 minutes. My brain is trying to reboot like a frozen operating system. All right, moving on. I hope your cognitive functions are doing better than mine, because it's not productive for only one of us to be glitching out here. Story 24. Upvoting because I hardly hear of anyone being happy with their job and would like to hear something other than the borderline harmful behavior most people go through. Story 25. I work for a TV station. My boss understands my value and gives me full autonomy. I write, produce, direct, and edit shows. I make decent money, but it's the flexibility that's appealing to me. Oh, I knew in HS I wanted to be in media. Went to college and graduate school. But if I had advice for young people, use YouTube tutorials constantly. I've learned 80 of my profession from YouTube. The education did provide a networking. Story 26. I write romance novels and sell them on Amazon. I actually got into it through writing erotica, which I still do. I've been having some real writer's block with my main project at the moment, stalled at 50,000 words. So I've been going back to straight up adult content more and more in recent weeks. It's really nice. It's a job, obviously, and some days you really don't want to sit down and put the hours in, but you have to in order to keep the lights on just like any other gig. Waiting for inspiration to strike isn't really an option. There's also the fact that when you self-publish, you have to do all of the things that a publishing house would do on top of writing. That means you have to figure out marketing, editing, cover design, social media, or at least be willing to hire someone who can do that stuff for you. As for the monetary side of things, I won't be buying a yacht anytime soon, but I have a comfortable income and I live pretty well. It has the added perk of being a job that makes me feel good about myself, which is always nice. People genuinely seem to like reading my stuff, and it's nice when they say hi or that they enjoy my work. It's not quite what I wanted to write when I was a kid who dreamed of being an author, but it gives me a lot of time and freedom to do what I want. Plus, I get to tell stories for a living. Who wouldn't want that? Story 27. I was an uneducated bricklayer in London, UK. Choose that job as could little else. Ended up working my way up the construction chain through hard work and experience. Ending up senior project manager. Ended up getting headhunted for a luxury resort in the Caribbean. And after 2 years, there was headhunted again by a very well-known famous celebrity who had a vacation home nearby on private island. Looked after his estate for 7 years. Met all kinds of celebs from De Niro, Costner, etc., many of whom remain friends now. Even worked as island manager for Sir Richard Branson in the BVI, meeting even more celebs, even the Obamas. who remain friends too. I'm now a full-time UHNW private estate manager and consult on properties worldwide. Long story short, uneducated London worker, now lives in the Caribbean, hanging out working with the rich and famous. Story 28. I always loved computers. I thought of them like magic boxes when I was little. Now I get to make my own spells and I get paid for it. So yeah, I like writing software. Story 29. I used to think that getting a job with as high a salary as possible was the goal in life. I even pursued this for many years. Now I'm sat on the uppermost cargo deck of a ro-ro vessel in the north of Europe. I can barely type because my fingers are freezing and covered in dust and grime. I'm tired. My arms and back are sore from just lashing trailers, and I have many hours of work to go. I couldn't be happier. Story 30. Firefighter paramedic. Started as a 911 dispatcher when I was in my early 20s and going to college. Decided I wanted a more active role in emergency responses, so I became an EMTB in my mid-20s. Worked as a part-time EMT and full-time dispatcher while I went to school to become a paramedic. During my paramedic ride time with a nearby fire department, I impressed them enough where they strongly encouraged me to apply there to work as a firefighter and a medic. Finished up my medic program, got my certifications, got hired by the fire department, and then they sent me to the fire academy. Now here I am, full-time firefighter paramedic and part-time 911 dispatcher, because I also still enjoy that. Story 31. I grew up with my father taking me on bike rides to go watch trains in town, so I always had a fondness for the railroad. One day in my early adulthood, while sick of my bullshit low-paying jobs and wondering what the fudge I was going to do with no more than a high school education, I got stopped by a train, and that's when it dawned on me. I wonder how much those guys make. Story 32. I work EMS. I changed to this career in 2004 out of a desire to help people who couldn't always help themselves. I love this life. I went this route because both of my grandfathers served in the Pacific Theater in Webbywood too. I wanted to serve, but military didn't seem the right fit. I wear a different uniform, took a different oath, but I hope they're both still proud. Story 33. I am unemployed. Totally love it. I got into it because I'm a talentless idiot who'd never amount to nothing. Story 34. I work graveyard at a gas station. It's great because I dislike people, and I get a discount on tobacco pipes and lighters, which I use for the devil's lettuce, or at least I did before they changed the legal smoking age to 21. It pays pretty well considering no one wants to work nights because no one's willing to be awake. It's an added bonus because I've basically been nocturnal since I graduated high school. My roommate's boss, who I met at a smoke sesh, said he knew someone who needed a night worker at a gas station, and he got me and my boss in touch. Story 35. Byte software things. It's like playing Lego every day, building something in code and watch it work and being used by other people. Story 36. I make props for a small prop supervision studio in London. It's purely hands-on and very creative. The props mostly go to West End theaters, but they could go anywhere, really. People come to me every day with weird and wonderful problems, like, we want this 80s telephone to look extremely fancy, but we also want it to shatter into pieces when we throw it down the stairs every night. Or here's a gross old grand piano. We need it to look like it's Rococo and made of gold. It pays decently, and I'm never bored, and I get to prowl around backstage of London's great old theaters. I graduated college and had no clue what to do with myself and fell into art department work while living in NYC. I went back to school in London for a technical theater and stage management course. I didn't get into the course I wanted, but I was so desperate, I called twice a week for a month and a half. Finally, they emailed me that my persistence had paid off and I could come. My first year out was rough, but it's been improving ever since. Story 37. I work as a freelance illustrator, mostly for commission portrait. Drawing is absolutely one of the things I always enjoyed doing since I was a kid. Sometimes I upload my drawing to social media and people ask me to commission for them. Business isn't doing so well at the moment, but I hope I can keep working in this field. Story 38. I'm a graphic designer, working on print projects generally and not web. It was something I kind of fell into. I actually went to school for technical theater, backstage behind-the-scenes stuff, and event management first, but wasn't totally stoked about either path. I also couldn't find a job after finishing college that second time and felt a bit lost. The design shop around the corner from my apartment was looking for help, but they wanted experience with Adobe programs. I ended up looking online to see if I could teach myself at home and found out a brand new design program was starting at my local college. Said fudge it, jumped in, and loved it. Of course, designing still has its tough moments. dealing with clients who want orange text on a red background and won't listen to you, or folks who think you just play on the computer all day and don't want to pay the appropriate amount for your services. But in general, it's great because I'm always being creative. Even if it's my 100th poster, it's going to be different from all the others I've done. And it's really, really cool to sit down at a pub and get handed a menu that you made. Story 39. Private jet pilot. Before all this blew up, it was an amazing job. Unlike airline pilots, we generally are away for longer periods of time but stay in nicer hotels. Having an all-expenses week in Turks and Caicos with the girlfriend, flies commercially, was not unusual. Only rule, no drinking adult beverage due to being on call. Story 40. Data entry job. I set my own schedule. The people in the office are easy to get along with. I get to partake in an all-you-can-eat dining hall for $3 a day. And best part of all, the data is food-related. I'm a Red Seal cook, went to culinary school, was in the industry for 10 years and landed this job. I'm just starting out, so I have plenty of room to grow in the company, but it's nice to still be in the field I love and experience something other than cooking. I love food, but as most cooks know, kitchen work is hard to do as a career if it's not your passion. I want work-life balance and relationships, so this data entry position is a fantastic find. Story 41. Zookeeper. This is a former job, but it's still my all-time favorite. I really liked everyone I worked with, and we're still friends. I got to work with black bears and bobcats and owls and farm animals, etc. I've been chased by a bison and spurred by a turkey. It's also rewarding to be able to answer people's questions or to correct something they've said that's incorrect. FYI, both male and female cattle have horns. Horns are species and gene-specific. There are some assholes and some really weird people out there. Every now and then you get to tell a bratty kid no, and they cry. Zookeeper jobs usually like you to have a degree. We had a mix of animal science, biology, wildlife science, and fisheries science aquarists. Zookeeper jobs pay around 10 a char, except in places like DC and San Diego, where you might get 15-18 OR. Cha-ching. If you want to move up in this industry, you have to be prepared to move. I have not watched Tiger King because I know the habitats will upset me. Jobs are found on the AZA website. Story 42. Neuroscience researcher. I just knew from when I was a little kid that I wanted to be a scientist, and I was lucky enough to have parents who would encourage that kind of thing and access to good educational opportunities. So I studied psychology in college, then went to grad school for behavioral neuroscience. That was a slightly rough 7 years. Got my PhD and started a postdoctoral fellowship a year ago in behavioral computational neuroscience. If I were independently wealthy, I would seriously pay money to be allowed to do this job. Story 43. I get to send out subtitles for sports via speech to text. Honestly, it's something that I really enjoy. I love sports and media. There's nothing better than this for me right now. Pay is decent. No complaints. About the getting into it, I just applied for a bunch of roles and this stuck. I almost don't remember how exactly I found it. Story 44. I'm an artist, more specifically a plein air painter. I started painting people's weddings' big life moments about 11 years ago, and it's the best job ever. I'm there with whole families, commemorating them in paint the way we all would have been documented before the advent of photographs. I've seen some of the most beautiful vistas in the world and met such lovely couples. My life is a constant loop of people's happiest days. It's like the highest high on earth. Some of my paintings, if anyone is curious, and a few pics of me on location, since I create them all on site. Story 45. As much as what people complain about IT, I really do enjoy my job. The saying, enjoy your job and you'll never work a day in your life, may not be completely accurate, but it does certainly come close on occasion. The fact that I spend time in the evenings working on ideas means that I do more than what is expected. My ideas have also resulted in solutions being delivered to the university that have saved time and money. I'm not always successful, but that's part of the journey. Edit. I am a Unix Linux sysadmin. Story 46. I'm a car mechanic, and I couldn't think of a workplace without cars. Plus, my colleagues are more like friends than colleagues. After I graduated, I started there. Story 47. I no longer work there. The job was a dream. The owner was not. I was a daycare teacher for 7 years. I loved every child in my care. I got up out of bed every single day for them. They were so funny, so cute, so sweet, and watching them and helping them grow was the best reward I could have hoped for. I worked from ages 6 weeks to 6 years old. Some of those kids I took care of their whole lives until I left. Of course, there were challenging children with specific needs, a child with a disability, but even then I loved being a positive influence in their lives. I loved having real conversation with these sharp little minds. Even our troublemakers made such great headway because I was allowed to initiate positive interaction with the child, myself and their families. I loved watching kids. I changed their diapers for get a little older, and the pride in their eyes when they went on the toilet for the first time. Doing projects and fun games, reading stories to them, teaching them to write their names. I will never forget that job or the kids I helped raise. I love that job so much. I love those kids even more. At moments like this, I just want to ask the OP, buddy, is your life a telenovela script written by screenwriters on heavy psychedelics? The seriousness of the situation is inversely proportional to the common sense of those involved. A pure masterpiece. Story 48. Gonna get some dislike, but being an officer in the Army is the best job I ever had. I used to be an emergency veterinarian and got chewed on by clients every day. The Army allows me to do what I need to do on the working dogs without worrying about money, and also allows me to influence and develop young soldiers' minds to better themselves. Oh, and when I see clients, they are less likely to treat me like shoot because of the respect thing in the military world. Story 49. Work as an FX artist on feature films, Men in Black, The Kid Who Would Be King, Bill, and Ted. And I love the job, not always the studio, but when I see what I get to do every day, I get inspired to keep pushing to learn more about my tools, as I am self-taught. I want to keep growing as an artist and a professional. I had this dream as a kid to work in movies, and I jumped at every opportunity that I thought could take me there. Eventually, I found myself on the path. Story 50. I was a union carpenter for 33 years before retirement. I wanted a job outside and walked onto a job site and asked for a job. Story 51. Am a union steam fitter, pipe fitters in Philadelphia. I love it because it's very hands-on, mechanical work, and it's well-paying with great benefits. I get to be outside most days, which is sometimes a bad thing depending on weather. My dad is also one, and he helped me get into the field. Another great part of it is that no one has ever heard of it, haha. I always loved working with my hands and could never be stuck in an office and wear a suit every day. Some days are cold or hot, and sometimes it's a little dangerous, but I don't want to do anything else. Story 52. I'm a teacher, early childhood and primary. I love my job now, but it took me a long time to come to it. I've fought against being the teacher for a long time because at school I was smart, like top of the class smart. So everyone told me I was going to do great things, be a politician, change the world. So I did a political science degree at uni, dislike it. So then I did a master's degree in participatory development, liked it well enough, but realized at the end all the jobs were in with the government. And no thanks, I dislike politics. So I did a little traveling and moseyed about, then started working casually at a preschool. Every day was amazing. I loved going to work. I had fun and got to watch tiny humans discover the infinite spectacle that is the world around us. Making the choice to be a teacher was the smartest choice I ever made. And the crazy thing is, as a teacher, someone who tries to guide young people toward the best and brightest future they could possibly have and want, they and I will change the fudge world. Story 53. I work as a freelance musician. It's badly paid, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And it took about 12 years of instrumental training to get to where I could make a living of it. Story 54. I'm a janitor, and I can say it's the fudge best every time friends or family ask how's work. I reply with, what work? I don't work. Every day is different. Some days something breaks and you go and repair it. Some days you clean. Some days you do some garden work. And everything is calm. I don't need to stress. I can listen to audiobooks all day long, and I can plan the day myself. Story 55. I'm a social worker. My current role is working in the adult beverage and other substances field, providing case management support to people at risk of overdose-related harms. I love my job. It fits with my professional and personal values. I love building up people's capacity to improve their circumstances. Story 56. I build and work on race cars. It's the coolest job in the world to me. I work for a team and do stuff on the side as well. I helped on race teams for years just for fun. And as I learned more and got better at it, it slowly morphed into a paying deal. Story 57. Carpenter. After having over a dozen different jobs, from military to the kitchens to music and business, this is like heaven. One of my coworkers from the kitchens had a husband who was in the field and got me a job as a stocker initially. Within a few months, I was installing. A few months later, I could foreman jobs. Story 58. I'm a crisis counselor for a hotline for a nonprofit that serves folks impacted by specific kinds of harmful behavior. I do direct care while also providing leadership and training as well. It's difficult work and it wears me down some days, but I couldn't imagine having a job that didn't feel as meaningful and important. I love helping people. I love listening to people. It's scary calling somewhere and asking for help or asking for support. But sometimes you get people like me on the other end who will do their best to make sure when the call's over, you're feeling a little better, a little more hopeful, and feeling a little safer. Story 59. Cameraman Steadicam Operator. I've traveled a good chunk of the globe doing a job I absolutely love. The money's nothing to sniff at either. Story 60. Freelance illustrator. Did art at college uni and did some work whilst holding down a 9-to-5. Quit the 9-5. Then a chance encounter with an editor allowed me to do some work that once published made it easier to get other work. Been working from home for several years now and very much used to it. So now, whilst everyone else is on lockdown complaining about being bored, I'm still working my arse off for the deadlines, but at least I'm still busy. Story 61. Piloting. Childhood dream come true and views are great. Worked hard and lucked into a sponsored program by an airing. Story 62. I'm a classical pianist. I studied privately for years, but bombed once I began training in college. Was severely depressed for many years before I finally climbed. Story 63. Humanitarian worker for an NGO specialized in child rights working in 50 countries. Can't top the feeling to wake up every morning knowing some of your work will help someone in need. Story 64. I work at an amusement park. It was my favorite first job. I worked in the games department as an attendant. I would operate a single game for a whole shift. With how busy the park was, I had the chance to meet and talk to so many different people throughout the day. Everyone had fun and each day was different. I have been there for 5 years now, and I had the amazing chance to become a part of the management team. I love the people I work with, but I have only maybe 5 bad days throughout the entire season. 10-10 would recommend. Story 65. I'm a junior doctor in the UK. For the last year, I've done 8 months in care of the elderly and 4 months in pediatrics. I love it. To get my job, I went to medical school. Story 66. I am an anatomical embalmer for the anatomical gift program at a medical school. I went to mortuary college and worked a few years for a funeral home. I felt I wasn't valued and looked for a more challenging and solitary position. Now I am living my dream. I opened 27 skulls with a power saw my second week. Bliss. Story 67. Just a regular old pizza chef in our local small town pizza and sub shop. I do really enjoy making pizzas, and there is something about stretching pizza dough that makes it one of my favorite things. Also have a few coworkers who play Pokemon, so it's always fun to talk about Pokemon and come up with strategies together. Story 68. I'm a firearm instructor at a nearby college. I found something I love to do and get paid well for it. I'm grateful. Story 69. I'm a scientist, specifically a physical oceanographer, numerical modeler. I love my job because on Friday I get to feel like I understand the world around me a little better than I did on Monday. Except in bad weeks, and then I feel like I don't understand anything at all, and I never did. I've got to know fascinating people all over the world, many of whom are very important to me, and work directly with a few of them, and travel to some beautiful places. As part of that, I've met some great non-scientists too. There's always more to learn, even on problems that I've been picking away at for over a decade. Most of all, I've never lost my "wow, that's neat" response to being able to take an equation and turn it into a computer algorithm that approximates it. It's awesome. I largely owe my career to 2 people. My father, who came home from work one day and told me about a radio broadcast discussing oceanography. He thought I'd find it interesting. He was right. The second person is my PhD supervisor, who supported me through some difficult science and personal times, probably without realizing that's part of their charm, and never gave up on their belief that I was a good scientist, even when my output didn't really support that faith. I consider myself very fortunate to have them as a friend and mentor. Story 70. I reprogram yeast to make THC and other cannabinoids. I did my master's and 2 years of a PhD working on finding novel compounds, antibiotics, anti-cancer, etc., from fungi, as well as repurposing those pathways towards desired products. Halfway through my PhD, I was offered a position at a company creating novel pathways from scratch. As I was already old, needed to start making money, and was super fascinated with the work, I took the job and loved every minute of it. Now the virus has put all of that on hiatus, and I'm playing video games until I can get back to work. Story 71. I teach English and math to chefs who are on an apprenticeship. I have 2 to 3 appointments a day going to various bars, hotels, and care homes in the area. I'm in charge of my own diary and work from home, which gives me a lot of autonomy and helps with work-life balance. My favorite part is breaking down barriers and giving people the confidence to pass their final exam. Chefs are a funny sort, all bravado, but use it to hide excruciating vulnerability, as most of them didn't do the best at school. It's great for me as I'm very outgoing, so end up making friends with the staff, which is always good for a laugh. The 2 AHRs consist of a good chat and catch up with a little bit of teaching in the middle. It's such a pleasure to see them grow and succeed. Not all of them are happy about the process, but I pull them around eventually. This keeps the job interesting and has done wonders for my people management skills. When people ask me what I do, I say I teach people against their will. They always thank me in the end, though. Just found out yesterday I'm being furloughed for 8 weeks. I don't know how I'm going to fare without teaching in my life. Story 72. I'm a supervisory pharmacologist. It's great because I get to challenge myself intellectually day in and day out with leading-edge science. The supervisory part presents a number of interpersonal challenges that are rewarding and complement the scientific aspect of what I do. Story 73. Work innate for public schools. It's great because there is no expectation of making a profit, just making the best environment for students and teachers. Story 74. I'm a meteorologist. It's been my dream to be one since I was 5 years old, normal for people in the field, and I'm living it, so no complaints here. Basically, I look at weather all around the world and help Fortune 500 companies mitigate their financial risk based on the weather. I love that my job has a direct impact on many people around the world, and I'm always learning something new. And before anyone says it, it's nice to have a job where you can be wrong half the time and still get paid. JK. Story 70. I'm a military photographer. I discovered it was a job that existed about 5 years before I got in, and immediately knew it would be my dream job. At the time, it felt unattainable. There are less than 10 of them in the country, and the turnover rate is incredibly low. The job required a photography degree, which I was already studying. While at uni, I threw myself in front of every hustle that would help me, the whole while never expecting a position to open or me to be good enough. I took photography jobs or picked assignments that would look good on my portfolio, lots of documentary work, events, sports, and portraiture. I worked in some service jobs part-time, but also took up a couple manual labor gigs to help get stronger. I'm 5'5" and was just over 50 kg. A couple years later, I ended up working at a big military air show and was introduced to the photographers. They told me to apply ASAP as there was one non-advertised position about to be filled. They already had a guy lined up for it, but once my application was through, I was accepted into the trade and started basic training a year later. The head photographer remembered me, having approached him right at the beginning of all this and asking, "What do I have to do to get your job?" He was stoked for me and is an amazing role model in the trade. This is the job of my dreams that I worked my jerk off for, never expecting to actually get. As a photographer straight out of uni, the supplied equipment and salary are amazing, but more importantly, I have the most incredible, challenging, and dramatic subject matter to work with. I get to travel to incredible places and get pushed to be better and do more with my life. I have an incredible team, and I know how lucky I am. It's a bit sick how excited I am to go to work every day. An absolute textbook case of how to create a problem out of thin air and then heroically struggle with it. I admire the dedication. Some people climb mountains, while this person dug a hole, jumped in, and is now shouting about conquering Everest. Respect. Story 76. I'm a Montessori room leader, and I love it. I love to see my children develop, learn, and show how kind they can be to another. Now, of course, they drive me crazy as well, but I won't be doing anything else. My workplace is very free as long as your children are happy, management are happy to let you control your room as you see fit with the people working with you. I'm in lockdown now and genuinely lost without them in the daily routine. Story 77. I legitimately loved working at a shoot convenience store on the graveyard shift. After 12 a.m., there would be nobody in the store until the strip club closed at 4 a.m., and then there was a parade of hilarious and dramatic strippers, then back to nothing until 6 a.m. I'd smoke blunts outside, blast my own selection of music all night, make myself unlimited taquitos on the roller grill, chug Red Bulls and muscle milk while I was in the fridge, read all the magazines, run my own discount card when people had none to get free gas, and undercharge for everything I possibly could just to brighten people's day. Can you believe I got fired? El mío. Story 78. I get to do YouTube full-time building and engineering my dream cars. The best part about it, the crazier and more noteworthy, the more successful the video. It's like getting to be a car mechanic and only work on your own cars. So thankful for getting to this point. It took years of making videos for fun as an outlet for being in a dead-end town. Story 79. Pre-sales consultant in enterprise software. I really enjoy it. Sort of fell into it. Did some tech sales. Found it easy to pick up the application. It was accounting. Then did some customer success stuff and got on with the pre-sales manager. He had an opening and decided to hire me. I've changed companies now, but it pays fairly well. I'm given a good amount of freedom in terms of where I work. Get to travel and see new things and deal with large companies. Story 80. I am a software engineer, basically solving puzzles for a living and getting paid to practice social contact with meetings with client, all while working with a crazy group of people. It started in high school. We learned very basic Java in a very ugly way, and I was hooked, and then forgot about it for a few years. I started a different course, which didn't work out. Went to an open day for a computer science course. It reminded me of the Java days back at high school, and I wanted to do this course. Skip a few years, graduate, apply for jobs, find job, skip more years, and here we are. Story 81. I make furniture for hotels and office buildings and stuff. I love it. Everything we make is custom, so you make something different every time. I live in the Netherlands, and I've been to Curacao, Germany, Belgium, France to install the stuff we make. I got into it by pure chance. I quit college because of stress. I cannot focus on stuff for a long period of time, so school isn't my thing, and just went to an employment agency and started the next day at the first job I could find. That was about 3 years ago. Had no prior experience, but it's like it made for this shoot. Story 82. Archaeologist. I'm back in school right now to get a master's, so I can hopefully lead my own digs one day, but even shovel bum jobs are amazingly rewarding. Sure, the days are long and you're out in the hot sun, but when you find something old and cool, you really feel like a treasure hunter. Story 83. Courier and delivery driver. I am a same-day and next-day delivery driver, so some things, like medical equipment, I deliver in under 2 hours, 4 hours. Sometimes next day before a certain time if they ask me to. As an introvert and someone who doesn't like it when someone observes my performance in real time, it's a great way to be in your head. Great thing is it's a small company with at least one great owner, so you don't end up being yelled at by Jack Jerk. Would recommend to 22, 30-year-olds because the job can be rough on your body, so must be in reasonable shape and lift about 50 pounds every 1-2 weeks. Story 84. Typesetter here. Liked the book, so I got a job in publishing after graduating. Turns out I was made for this. It's the perfect balance of logic and art, and I basically get to read for a living. Story 85. I'm going to start working at a cat hotel this summer. I started working there in March of 20 as an intern. After I had a couple of internships who were absolutely horrible to people, I study animal care, so I have to do a couple of internships for school. I spend my days there cleaning up the units where we keep the cats and, of course, giving lots of cuddles to my fur clients. My boss also has horses, chickens, and a few bunnies, which I also take care of at work. A couple of months ago, he asked me if I could start working here this summer because I will hopefully graduate school, so my internship will end. I never thought I would actually enjoy a job until this one came around. Sorry for bad grammar. Story 86. I work in a small kitchen in a busy restaurant. I usually run the grill. The excitement and adrenaline of walking into a shift and not knowing when it'll walk out is somewhat addictive. I love looking at a rail of 20 orders and figuring out timing and preference, and being able to do that in a matter of seconds. Not only that, but the staff is very nice and the management, for the most part, works with you on what you need help with. They are treated me well and I'm very appreciative, especially after being homeless. Story 87. I work in biomedical research and really enjoy what I do because it lacks monotony. We have multiple projects going, which I get to jump around on a daily basis. I got into by being interested in medicine and then going to school for the rest of my life. One caveat is that the pay is utter shoot. However, I feel fortunate to be where I'm at. Story 88. I'm an audio engineer and I went into the field because, while I really want to be a musician, if I can't make my own stuff work, there's nothing I love more than helping other people make their stuff work. Story 89. I'm a teacher, And I genuinely love about 50 of my job. The marking and the more difficult classes make the other 50 pretty miserable. Previously, I was the digital media editor for a small but reasonably successful independent news and documentary organization. I loved about 30 of that job. The pressure and the constant content churn made the other 70 pretty bad. Retail before that, the customers made this 100 awful. However, this was only a part-time role whilst I studied at uni. Construction as a laborer prior to that was about 80 joyous. The salary ruined the other 20. If I could go back and reselect some of these choices, I would still be a builder today, but would have really put more effort into skilling up to get a trade. But I guess the 2008 financial crash also kind of fudged this too. Story 90. I make YouTube videos where I play French horn. I did it to just make music and have fun. Eventually money came from it. I'd still be doing the same thing if it wasn't paid. Seeing viewers move on and study horn in uni college and then get a job in music is what keeps pushing me. Story 91. Teach college. Got sick of my office job in my 20s, quit and started tutoring full-time, then found a job at a large educational company, then transitioned to teaching college full-time. Story 92. It started off with my first job as a printer technician and installing them in local offices. During the interview, my manager asked if I knew how to configure a printer. I did not, but said I did, and he wanted to test me right then. During the test, I asked for a cup of water, and he left the room, so I Googled how to configure printer with IP, learned it, and set it up by the time he got back. Story 93. I own a pub with 5 of my friends. Like no shoot like Patty's Pub, except we are successful and don't have quite as many off-site adventures. I was trained at high-end restaurants and was a head chef for a few years. But then I turned 30 and thought, fudge this, if I'm going to work 70 hours a week, I should at least enjoy it. Story 94. I'm an IT professional at a law office. I do a little bit of everything from sysadmin, networking, security, and even some digital forensics for non-criminal cases. Story 95. I feel as though my job seems so insignificant in comparison to the many other posts here, but I do so love it, and I will post anyways. I work at a small, independent ice cream shop where we utilize fresh and local produce, organic eggs and cream, etc., etc. My boss is the most kind, genuine man I have ever had the pleasure of working for, and every day I get to go in and be creative, make different ice cream and popsicles, and just have a great time. I, like many others right now, unfortunately am unable to work as we close the doors to prevent the spread of the virus. But I am so eager to get back to work, as it is truly one of the most fun and creative jobs I've ever had. I was once a regular customer of the shop, and when they were looking to hire, I jumped on the opportunity and have been there for 2 years now. Ice cream makes so many people happy, and I love being able to bring joy to people. Answer: anyone who loves their job to the point where they not only look forward to going there, but be creative and innovative at it, has a significant job. You mentioned being aware of how much joy you can bring with ice cream, but even with that, you likely will never know how many smiles you've put on children's faces, or how many first dates you've helped make because of your ice cream. I hope that when I get out of university, I can find a job that brings me half the amount of joy your post radiates, and I'm hoping you will be able to return to work soon. Story 96. Timber frame carpenter. Used to be a scenic carpenter, but theater can be pretty high stress. A former boss took a course on timber framing and showed me pictures. Looked cool, so I bought a book, then all the books, and found a different job. I love visualizing all the interactions in a complex structure, as well as cutting and finishing a joint well. Story 97. I took a computer-aided drafting course, AutoCAD Release 10, during my senior year in high school back in 1993. Within a week, I knew this is what I wanted to do. 27 years later, and am using AutoCAD Civil 3D 2019 at a small engineering firm, and truly enjoy it. Story 98. I'm a librarian. It's seriously the best job ever. My mom was also a librarian. She's retired now. And my whole life, she said I would end up as a librarian. I resisted so hard. I started college as a physics major. Then a bunch of shoot hit 1 million fans, and I changed my major to English. What do you do with a BA in English? You teach, not for me. Or I started working in a library while I was finishing undergrad and finally gave in and got my MLIS, Masters of Library and Information Sciences, and here I am. The only thing I don't love about my job is that my mother was right. P.S. Please do what you can right now to support your libraries. Our funding often depends on people using the library, and that's hard right now. Please check out ebooks and e-audiobooks. Use whatever databases and learning tools your library has available. Story 99. I really enjoy my role as a recruiter. I was headhunted by a headhunter to become a headhunter. It's a lot of one-on-one contact with different people from different walks of life and just listening to their ambitions, hopes, and dreams. There's also a creative side to it with writing ads, as well as some administrative work. I do enjoy being in-house more, though. Working in an agency was way too sales-focused for me. Story 100. I am a conservation worker. We plant trees, remove weeds, and generally rehabilitate areas, particularly waterways. Every day is outside work, in the most beautiful forests sometimes. It can be difficult, but it is such a rewarding job. I got the job because one morning I decided to go for a walk. I never walk, and ended up at a market where I started talking to a guy about the environment. One of those things that just magically fall into place. Answer, that sounds awesome. My favorite outdoor job, which ended after a year when the contract was up, was doing biological inventories for a subcontractor that produced reports for fish wildlife. I'm a biologist and basically got to bum around outdoors and see what plants and animals lived in a given area and report relative abundance, nesting or denning behavior, and so on. Basically, it was part of the permitting process for oil drilling or construction or whatever other activity the landowners were interested in. They needed to know if there were any endangered species on site or in transit during migration season. Camped out in the back of my truck, wherever I was in the back of beyond. I didn't even have the pain of having to produce the long reports, just needed to supply the raw data. It was so much fun except for being away from my family, but I was home every weekend. Story 101, landscaper. Not glamorous in the least, but I love coming home covered in dirt and tired from working in the sun. It's so satisfying knowing I worked hard and that I spent the day doing honest labor. Story 102. I work a standard 9-to-5 office job, but I love it and wouldn't want anything else just because of the people I work with. We're all friends, and work doesn't feel like work. A friend of my brother brought me in. Answer. Worked at a call center, walked up and left. Boss went from overly friendly to complete evil towards me specifically. I literally did not quite what I did to this woman for her to have such dislike towards me. Would say some really mean things. My guess is I think someone told her something, and she believed them. I tried to talk to her and schedule a meeting, but she completely ignored me. After that, I walked out and went home. She then answered, telling me she would be done with her shift and we can have a meeting when I had already left to save herself. She called me and told me she had my resign papers ready, never got closure, and never understood why someone who I was so kind with would suddenly be out to get me. Other than that, the other girls would snitch on each other and literally heard someone complaining about me to another girl. The place was toxic. Story 103. I do land surveying. I love it. I spend my days in the wilderness, and it pays pretty dang good. I didn't really even know what it was, but I needed a job terribly. Filled an application and started the next week. Been doing it ever since. 3 YRs and counting. Story 104. I'm a software developer and love my job. To be fair, I've never had a job that I didn't love, even when I stacked shelves in a fruit shop. While I think I'm really lucky to have found the field and be fairly good at it, I think loving your job and being grateful for it comes down to mindset and the people you work with for. If you dislike your job, think about the things that you love about it, the parts of it that you're really good at. Reflect on how you've grown in the position and be thankful that you're employed. But if you still dislike it, work at trying to better your situation. Story 105. Total accident. As a teenager, late 90s, I wanted to be an actor and go to acting school, but since I lived at my mother's, she told me she would only allow it after I get a proper degree to fall back on if the acting career was to fail hard. Fine, or waste 3 years, whatever. I like to talk to my friends on MSN Messenger, so that was the entire reason I reluctantly chose a computer science degree. This was France in the late 90s. At the time, no one knew whether computers would become a big job market or not. I was not even a gamer. That was the motivation for most of the students there, so it really was quite random. A bachelor's degree in France is 3 years. I went through the first 2 years hating it, particularly because those first 2 years were fairly theoretical with a lot of maths. Again, this was before there were a lot of jobs, so they were mostly hoping to make us researchers. On year 3, they reformed it all and made our classes a lot more project-based, that I was still acting on the side, and I was starting to find the backstabbing culture more and more unappealing compared to how students would help each other all the time in my software classes. That's when I started having the epiphany that I actually loved building software. If the project and the people are nice, Now, I'm about 15 years into this career, and we all know how the software engineering job market ended up booming. It's made me eventually move to the US, where my skills are in higher demand and generally more respected. I'm currently a highly graded engineer in a large public tech company you almost surely have heard of, but I also played the startup game for a while. More importantly, every time a job has gone awkward, it's been easy to find a healthier one. I've been having a great time moving around in this industry, so thanks, Mom. Okay, after this one, I needed a tea break and a long, meaningful stare at the cactus on my windowsill. The cactus understood me. Sometimes it feels like the world is missing a loud error 404, logic not found sound effect that would play at life's key moments. Story 106. I'm a landscaper. A lot of long days, a lot of grunt labor, but every day is different. I like getting to travel around to new locations, creating practical and eye-catching spaces in both urban and rural areas for people to enjoy. A lot of the time, it's elderly people that hire us to come and do work around their houses, and I find this super rewarding. Gardening, lawn care, brick walkways, stone walkways, foundation repair, boardwalks. Knowing that you're creating space for these people to enjoy as they grow older. The skills you develop are incredibly versatile. Gardening, masonry, carpentry, etc. You learn the ins and outs of different types of tools. You learn how to operate and maintain different types of equipment and about the proper conditions for different types of construction, depending on weather, location, etc. For this industry, you really have to find a sturdy company to employ you. And this can be really hard to find, but if you find the right one that will pay you steadily and help you grow into a valuable tradesperson, the sky is the limit. I've worked with a lot of shoot guys that refuse to take me seriously, but I've also had awesome mentors that use me as their right hand and talk me through the process as we work. Ultimately, I want to become a carpenter and restore old houses and old buildings. But for now, as a woman in my early 20s, landscaping is the perfect industry to build myself up from. Story 107. I'm a designated crisis responder. I assess psych patients to determine if they need to be placed on a psych hold for 72 hours involuntarily. In my state, we're the only PPL with the authority to do it, and even have to read Miranda rights before as it's a legal process. You have to have a master's in psych or social work to do it, and I got into it when I worked in the ED and realized I love crisis work. Story 108. I deliver grocery shopping to people across a large area. It's nice because I get to talk to people, see different lives, houses, scenery. I get to listen to rock music whilst driving around in my van. The people I work with are amazing, and some of the managers are nice. I feel valued there, more than I've ever felt at any other job I've done. Story 109. I own and run my own BJJ Academy. It's been my dream since I was 18, and I've loved every second of it over the last 2 years it's been open. Unfortunately, due to the shutdowns, it's really suffering GGWP world. Story 110. Wildland firefighter. After graduating high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I started taking general university classes. I found I really didn't like the large class sizes of university, so I transferred to a polytechnic and took a forestry diploma. One of my classes was the fundamentals of wildland fire, which I had a great instructor who used to be a firefighter. I had never thought of forest firefighting before, as I had been an overweight, nerdy kid who pretty much just played video games, but the thought of this job made me start to get in shape. With the help of my instructor, I made it through the interviews, passed the fitness test, which was the hardest thing physically I had ever done, and landed a job on a 4-person initial attack hell attack crew. I've been working in forest fires since 2011 now, and what started as a summer job during college has become a career I'm extremely passionate about. The sense of camaraderie when you're all in a shoot, sweaty, uncomfortable situation together with your best friends makes for oddly satisfying times and memories. On a side note, I have a feeling this year could be a historic challenge trying to manage forest fires during an epidemic. But our industry always rises up to face tough situations. Story 111. Veterinary nursing. Started as a dog groomer to use as a stepping stone to breach the veterinary world. Been doing it since I was 15. Couldn't imagine doing anything else. Even now during the COVID outbreak, my clinic is my second home. Story 112. I'm the GM of a busy restaurant in London. There's so much diversity to the job, it just keeps you interested every day. Tasks arise where you have to fulfill the roles of customer relations, HR manager, host, server, bar, IT, financial, recruitment, HS, training, marketing, advertising. There's just so many skills you have to learn and develop to be able to juggle everything well. I also love problem solving, and this job lends itself so well to that. How can we stop customers leaving without paying in the courtyard? Why are customers complaining about afternoon tea service? How can we improve breakfast sales? I'm big into wine too, and the company I work for provides lots of opportunity to learn more and hosts a huge amount of tastings. Amazing job. Story 113. VFX artist here. Some days are hard and the overtime can be killer, but overall I love my job. The projects are fun and the people even better. Story 114. I'm a magician for a living. I mostly specialize in performing at corporate events all over the world. It had been a hobby since I was little. Throughout my childhood, I always had a passion for theater and eventually minored in it in college. I was working in sales after 8 years in the Army and decided to give it a shot. So I went out and pitched a bunch of restaurants on the idea of having me come bounce around, performing for people at their tables while they waited for their dinner. It was really well received. Eventually, I started booking bigger and bigger clients. I started doing a lot of work for the Philadelphia Phillies and other famous companies' places, and I gradually became a bit of a local celebrity. After a few years, I was able to quit my day job. That was 3.5 years ago. I still remember my last day of work and how scared I was to take the leap. But looking back, it's the best thing I've ever done. I get to travel the world now and amaze people. And even more importantly, I have the time I need to develop and write my own material, which is my favorite part of the job. I recently signed with one of the biggest agencies in the world. So before this pandemic put everything on hold, my career was skyrocketing too. Hopefully I can pick back up where I left off when this whole thing blows over. As for right now, though, I'm basically unemployed for the next 8 weeks because everything is canceled. Answer: this is awesome. I've been performing magic for 20-ish years. I did a lot of restaurants and private events for corporations for about 3 or 4 years in my early adulthood. I made a fair living, but it becoming a work thing all the time kind of eliminate my passion for it. I do still like to take a deck of cards to a brewery and dust off an old ACR in my free time. Here's to hoping you keep climbing, my friend. Story 115. 11 years ago, I didn't know what a mosaic was. I was shopping Anthropology and saw a mosaic wall art piece I wanted to buy. But they wouldn't sell it to me BC. They said it was part of their visual display and told me to just go home and make one. Now I'm a full-time mosaic artist. Story 116. I run a team of engineers supporting our data centers, Windows servers, Exchange, SharePoint, and a bunch of other minor systems. I love it. I look forwards to going into work. I've got 10 engineers in my team, and each and every one of them presents a new interpersonal challenge, and I pride myself in being as good a boss as I can. I was a sysadmin for 5 years. Well, help desk monkey, first line techie, second line techie, third line techie, sysadmin. Then got my first management job running a small team. Figured I'd do it for a year, and if I dislike it, I'd go back. Turns out I didn't dislike it. 1 redundancy, 2 fixed-term contracts, and 1 ill-advised trip into patent examining later. Now in my 4th management role and just love it. Story 117. Accountant. Definitely not what people think of when they think enjoyable job, but stable, predictable, and lucrative. If it works with your aptitudes, it's a great job that pays well that you can leave at the door each day. Story 118. Grew up working with computers. My brother told me that I should work for his shoe shining company. Instead, I took advice from the great Stan Lee and decided to work with what I love doing and not letting some idiot talk me out of it. I still love him, LMAO. Story 119. I work with children who either have a visual or hearing impairment. I have done it for 24 years. I have learned and been able to teach them Braille and sign language. I love the rewards of seeing smiles on their faces when they get it. I'm very lucky. Story 120. I research virtual reality at a university. It's the best. Essentially, I get to program video games, only for practical purposes and at an engineer's pay. There's also all the cool hardware I get to work with and the teaching of students, which I really like. And while I'm at it, I get to publish my work and grab my PhD. Wins all around. I studied nanotechnology, which is not exactly related. But then I did an internship in that field and really liked it, so I continued studying it myself. Just as I got my master's, a position opened up, which seemingly was made just for my skills. The finale, and what a finale it is. If this story were a TV series, fans would be petitioning for a remake after this final season. We've been through fire, water, and the brass pipes of absurdity. Thank you all. You've been magnificent. Take care of yourselves and try to avoid situations that would later be described here with the headline, "Help, what do I do?" Story 121. I cook Central Texas-style BBQ. I'm on rib shift, which means going in at 1 a.m. and working until 11 a.m. when the restaurant opens. I cook pork ribs, pork tenderloin, pork bellies, sausage, and some of the sides, as well as rotating specials. It's a small staff, 20 people, and everyone is very chill. I took a chance on a kitchen gig a few years ago and ended up really enjoying cooking in a professional setting, so I decided to make a career out of it. I actually met the owner of my current restaurant at that first job, and when he opened his own restaurant last year, he called me up to ask if I wanted to cook for him. We were open 9 months before the pandemic forced us to close temporarily, but we're opening again for takeout this week. That's the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're interested, I have a second channel. This is Vancher signing off. See you soon.